that this badge right here actually has three functions. It obviously is a badge. It also opens the boot, and when you put the car in reverse, it also stands as your reversing camera. Hello and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel, and today we are finally reviewing the best car in the world. It is the Volkswagen Golf, and now I am a little bit biased as I have owned about 5 of them and currently have a Volkswagen Golf GTI. However, there is a bit of legitimacy behind that claim, as first of all, the Golf suits anyone, whether you're a first-time driver or an 80-year-old grandparent or even a middle-aged accountant. This car is kind of socially acceptable and fits the brand of absolutely everyone. What's more is it has an engine for everyone. Whether you're looking for a small petrol engine, a diesel engine, a fast version, you can get a GTI. If you want a really fast version, you can get a Volkswagen Golf. And then if you want to go something like the hybrid route, you can get a GTE or even an all-electric EGolf. So for that reason, it has everything. Now this particular one is a Golf GTD, and we're actually not going to explore too much on the GTD and instead focus on the car itself, the space, the utility, and then when we get to driving we will of course talk about how that GTD drives and handles and the power delivery. But for now we're going to check out the boot and see what it's all about. Prices start at about 27,000 euros for the Golf, but as you can imagine that is an entry-level car. Something like the GTD is substantially more. We'll talk about price in a while. Now when you open up the boot, you have 380 litres, which is 5 litres more than its rival, the Ford Focus. Now, the Ford Focus is a brilliant car, but let's talk about the actual Golf and the boot and the utility. So first of all, you have 2 different modes as standard on every single Golf. So you have here with the smaller load lip, or if you want to make it a little bit deeper, you can lower it like that. What's more is you have a spare wheel. Now it is a space saver, but it's a spare wheel nonetheless. In terms of storage, you have one spot here, another spot here. You also have shopping bag hooks here, and you have a ski pouch. One other really cool feature of the Golf is that you can lower the seats like that in a 60-40 split, expanding that space to 1,270 litres. So as you can see, it is very practical and it is very functional. When you open up the back door, the first thing you'll notice is that it opens nice and wide, which is great because it pairs up with these ISOFIX points that are easily accessible for the child seat. Now the next thing you'll notice is these tartan seats. Whether you love them or hate them, they are completely exclusive to the GTD and the GTI, so chances are your ordinary Golf won't have one. Now everything else in terms of space and practicality is the same. So you have loads of knee room, decent headroom because it's got that boxy shape, and then you've got some nice features like a lowering armrest which you can put drinks in. They're actually very good big drink holders. On top of that you have door cards which will fit a nice drink, and then you've got a little bit of climate control here. The other thing that's very kind of old school but I think is a nice touch is you have these little coat hangers here, so you can put your coat on there on long journeys. Now the cockpit, which is so important because this is where you're going to spend probably most of your time if you buy a car. So when you sit in, it is extremely comfortable and it's extremely well laid out. Starting with the seat, as I said, it's comfortable. Now this particular one is the GTD, so it comes with the big bolsters, but every Golf seat is comfortable, particularly on long journeys. They've also got a lot of maneuverability, so you can move it backwards, forwards, up, down. You've got a little bit of movement in your steering wheel, and you've got lumbar support as standard. So things are looking good for the Golf, and it continues in terms of features and practicality. You've got big storage here in the door cards. You've got 2 drink holders here and here. You've got a nice glove box. If we come back to the center now, we've got a center console with this nice maneuverable little armrest. So it comes forwards and backwards, and it can be adjusted to get the perfect height, and it'll lock there and stay like that, which is great on a motorway cruise. You've also got some other key features like a USB point in here. You've got a 12-volt socket and dual climate control. As you can imagine, being a German car, the infotainment system, it's pretty fantastic. It's well laid out and it's all very functional and user friendly. So when you turn it on, The first thing you'll notice is it has Apple CarPlay. It also connects to Android phones, so using Android Auto. And if you don't remember to bring your lead, well, it's no problem. You can still connect your phone and listen to your music and actually talk on the phone safely through the Bluetooth in itself. Now, of course, it has your radio. This particular car actually has sat nav, which the graphics aren't fantastic on. In general, the graphics are really good on this system, but not that big of a fan of the sat nav. Now, that doesn't matter because you can always connect through your phone and use Google Maps. It also has all your various different apps. It's very cool, and of course you got your main menu there. Now, the other thing that's really cool, but this is an optional extra, is the head-up display, as it is a digital dash. It's the way the car market is moving in general, and it's great to see it here in the Volkswagen. Of course, you can load through your settings. You can put everything from vehicle status, your phone. You can find out what you're listening to, what radio station. You can actually have your navigation up here. And there's even a little thing called lap timer. So if you do decide to take this to a track, you can see how fast you do a lap in. Don't know how necessary that is, particularly in a mainstream diesel car, but it's nice to have it. So, how does the Golf drive? In short, very well. It's tight around the bends, the suspension is nice and smooth, it takes corners well, and it is very comfortable, everything from the seats to the driving position. Now, there's so many different engines that it's hard for me to break it down into just this engine or any particular engine. What I will say is there's something for everyone, and the one thing to absolutely get is this DSG gearbox. It's available in the petrol and the diesel engines, and it is fantastic, and it's an extra that I don't think I could live without. Now, more specifically on the GTD, as I want to kind of compare it to a GTI, because I think potentially you would be mad to get a GTD instead of a GTI. So let me explain. It's got 181 brake horsepower, and it's very responsive, it's fast, and of course being a diesel, it's got a lot of torque. It handles very similarly to a GTI, but for the extra money to a GTI, I actually think it's worth it. And if you can afford 44 or 45,000 euros to buy a car like this, you can probably afford a little bit more to upgrade to a GTI. Now you're probably thinking, Dave, what about running costs? Well, I've been driving this car fairly hard, and if you're interested in a GTD, you're probably going to drive it fairly hard as well. And I'm only averaging 8.5 litres per 100 kilometres, which, being honest, in my own GTI day to day, I get that too. It's not, obviously this is going to be more economical, but it's only marginally more economical. And for that reason, I think the GTI is a better car. It's also a little bit lighter. However, I don't want to say this is bad to drive, because it's fantastic, it's fun, it's responsive, and it's a great car all in all. Just like every car review, we have to talk about 3 of our favourite and least favourite things. Now, it pains me to do 3 things that I don't like about the Golf because I think it's amazing, but my producers are making me say something. So, number 1 is that they actually tend to be in quite a high insurance bracket. Now, it's such a shame, but unfortunately, because a lot of young people do drive them, there are a lot more crashes, and thus the price of insurance goes up. Number 2, and I only know this because I own literally the same car with a different engine, is that when you turn it on in the morning, and now imagine that there's loads of water on your roof because we live in Ireland, there probably will be, and if you drop your window to maybe ease the condensation, if you move slightly forward or slightly backwards, for some reason the water manages to find its way into the car better than any other car in the history of cars on the road, and that is a very frustrating fact. And number 3 is the engine noise of this diesel. I'm not sure if my microphone picks it up very well, but it sounds awfully similar to a tractor, and that's no disrespect, but I feel like they could refine it a little bit more in 2019. Now, 3 of my favourite things about the Volkswagen Golf. So without going too far into it, this is the Mark 7.5 Golf, which means it's the 7th version, and then the 0.5 means it's facelifted. So it's got new bumpers, and it also has these very snazzy sequential indicators. Very cool, and kind of add a little bit of excitement to the whole car. And number 2 is that this badge right here actually has 3 functions. It obviously is a badge. It also opens the boot, and when you put the car in reverse, it also stands as your reversing camera. Now you're probably thinking, how does that work? Well, here is a clip of it opening itself. And number 3 is that the Golf is very understated. So as you know, this car's got a bit of power and it's got a lot of spec and a lot of toys and costs nearly 50,000 euros. But to the average person and to the average eye, it actually just looks like a Golf, and therefore you don't seem very ostentatious driving it around. So there you have it. That is the Volkswagen Golf. Now I tried to keep it as neutral as possible, even though I am a little bit biased. Now remember, they start at about 27,000 euros, but you can spend way over 50 grand if you were to spec up a Golf 4, let's say. Now, if you're to get an entry level one on finance, on a PCP deal with about 8,000 or 9,000 down payment, you're talking 340, 350 euros a month, depending on what kind of additional extras you'd like. But nonetheless, we hope you've enjoyed the review. I hope that it's helped you get into your car. If you've ever driven or owned a Golf or any of its competitors like the Ford Focus, then let us know in the comments. But for now, we will see you in the next video.